Hey gang, Joyce Welsh with Skipping Calves Farms here. Kind of a little bit of a garden update and kind of an experiment I'm trying. If you can see right here from this double T-post on down, that was my original set of beans that I put in, and I've already harvested mature pods. These are a few that are lagging a little bit behind. These will be bright pink in a few days. And these were the beans that were a gift from a good friend of mine at church. And they are absolutely awesome beans. So I went through and I harvested everything. Before I harvested it, I sent a video out a little while ago going, "What's going on with my beans? I'm losing my leaves." And I did. I've lost virtually all the leaves. And after I harvested the beans, I decided I'd just try something. And let me rotate around and let me explain why. After these beans had grown up to the top, several weeks, 2 months or so, they'd been in the ground. And talking with my friend Kim, she and her husband Robbie know all there is to know about gardens. Well, pretty much. They're great local folk, and she's the one who gave me the beans. And they've been in her family locally for 150 years. So I put those beans in the ground. This is a new tranche or set of seed that went in. The idea being I may or may not be able to get shelled beans the second time around, but I may be able to get some fresh green beans before the first frost hit. And look at these vines. They're already to the top of my trellis, most of them. And that's really pretty awesome. We had a couple of weeks there where it was pretty dry and the ground was getting pretty dusty and hard. But look, we had a little bit of rain here the other day, and we've been getting a lot of dew at night. And I don't think that we can discount dew. If you follow Greg Judy and his website and his ranching operation out in Missouri, they're a little bit more brittle and warmer than we are. They don't get as much rain in the middle of the summer. I think July is one of their driest months. And so he's been dealing with a drought, and he talks about even though it's a drought and they haven't had rain, when he and his farm manager Isaac go out in the morning to move the cows, there's moisture on their pants and on their boots from the dew at night. And I think there's something to be said for that, for a number of reasons. Number one, if you do get a lot of heat or wind, evaporation by definition, as a scientist, evaporation by definition is a cooling process. The most important thing that you can do with your soils is protect your soil microbiome. Dr. Elaine Ingham calls it the soil food web. And the most important thing that you can, or one of the most important things that you can do about preserving your soil food web, other than no mechanical or chemical disturbance, and that includes temperature changes. The microbes will live in a certain temperature range, and then if it gets hotter or colder than that, they go into a dormant state, and they're no longer the messengers back and forth, the taxi drivers back and forth, as it were, for the minerals for your plants. So they can't get into the plants, they can't get into your animals, and your food nutrient density is compromised somewhat. So it's always a good thing to try and keep the temperature, the soil temperatures, within a stable, normal range. So what am I looking at now here? And how does that relate to the drought? Well, it was dry here. We were not, I lost all my leaves on this original growth, which is what we're looking at now, the original plants. Well, we had rain a couple of days ago. And look at these vines. I chose not to cut down the vines. They were all dead, basically. There was all you had were these old, yellowed, fungus-ridden, bug-eaten, mature leaves. These are among the better ones that were left. And most of them, if you can see, the litter on the bottom is just covered with the leaves. But I decided not to tear down the vines. Why? Well, one of the other most important things that you can do in terms of stabilizing your soil microbiome is you always want to try and keep living roots in the topsoil, in the top 6 inches or so of your soil year-round, if at all possible. One of the things that Elaine Ingham talks about in her personal garden is everybody says, well, you got to move your taters every year and you got to move your beans every year to avoid getting pests. And what Dr. Elaine says is, no, that's not really necessarily true. If you have balanced, healthy soil, you don't have to move everything. Why? Because the soil microbiome that's already underneath this trellis is designed to work with beans. So why move the beans someplace else and have to get new subcontractors in, you know? And so, look at these. I left them, I think I did my major harvest on the beans about 10 days, 2 weeks ago easily. And look what's growing back. There's almost as much new green growth down at the ground on these mature plants as there is on the ones that I planted months later. A couple of months later. Look at that. Look at that, gang. Isn't that cool? So, so that was just kind of an experiment, something I'm always experimenting with something. So I figured, why tear them out? Nature doesn't tear them out. So why not try and keep the live roots in the ground as long as we can? And then I got to thinking, well, I've got the other beans that are growing. Maybe I can get something out of these beans too. And then look at what we've got. They are back up and growing all the way to the top of the trellis. All the way at the top of the trellis. Look at that. You can see the litter on the ground where those other leaves, which will have the minerals that the plant needs, that'll go right down on top of the plant. If you're familiar with permaculture, they call that kind of gardening or agriculture, when you do it deliberately, as chop and drop. When you trim a bush or a tree or something in your garden, you cut it and you just drop the vegetation right where the plant is. So whatever nutrients the plant got out of the soil goes right back into the soil. So you don't rob your soil or carry off the nutrients like you do when you hay, for example. So if you've got a grazing operation and you've got a single field that you've been using for hay for a number of years, over a period of time, the plants are going to change the quality of the plants from a grazing standpoint, from an energy standpoint, from an animal performance standpoint, are going to become less and less until, as Greg Judy talks about, the only thing you have left is broom's edge. And they have a clay-like soil like we do here in southeastern Tennessee. It's not exactly the same, and they don't get as much rain as we do. But it's similar enough from a basic principle standpoint. The details aren't what's important. What's important are the principles and the general processes that nature is utilizing in that ecosystem. Those same processes, those same things are going on in Missouri, are going on here in southeastern Tennessee. And but I just thought, oh, isn't that exciting? Let's look back down here this way, where we get a little bit different light, because the angle of the light is better from this direction. But look at that. Here are the new vines that are just growing up fresh and new. And then, as you can see here in the middle, right there in the middle, we've got the double T-posts. That's where the first, that's where the new plants stop and the old plants start. And I planted 2 cattle panels full of the old ones and just 1 of the new ones. So now we're coming down to the older plants. And if you get a chance to go back and look at some of my more recent shots of the garden, even after I did that video about the leaves, I'm losing my leaves, you'll see how bare these vines got. And look at them growing back. Look at them growing back. And so, if nothing else, let's say I get nothing positive from a crop as far as these vines are concerned. What am I getting? I'm getting nutrient cycling from the live roots and the soil microbiome on these vines. And I may be able to buy 2 months or 3 months or 4 months in terms of nutrient productivity, if not food productivity. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll keep it tracking and see what's going on. But I just thought that that was pretty interesting. What can I say, gang? Yeah, I'm a soils gal. I'm a truth junkie. I love to experiment. But let's face it, the bottom line is this. If you're on the land and the stuff hits the fan, you need your land to feed your family, and you need your food to be healthy in case you don't have access to all the stuff that we have access to now. You go in and you go online and you start studying about some of the native people and the diet that historically people ate. It's a little bit different than what we do now. And they didn't have the autoimmune issues. They didn't have the cancer. They didn't have the heart disease and this, that, and the other thing. And you can say, well, maybe it was just not in their genetics. No, there have been studies where native peoples have gone in and adopted a Western style lifestyle, and they developed a Western style health style, or ill health style, more appropriately. Look at the okra. My goodness, it's as tall as I am. It's almost 6 foot tall in some of my plants. So with that, gang, I apologize for rambling a bit, but I ramble and I reiterate and I rephrase and I re-say. Why? Because that's how we learn. And if we don't do this step and we just kind of skip over it and say, well, I can add lime or I can add fertilizer. Yeah, but you're treating the symptom. If you have a headache and you take aspirin and you ignore that headache and it doesn't go away because it's a result of an aneurysm, which is something that affected my mom when I was a youngster. She had a headache that wouldn't go away unless she laid down, and the doctors discovered what it was and they put her in bed for 8 weeks. And I was able to have my mom with me for another 50 years. But she explained to me later, and my mom was an RN, she explained to me later that had she not had the physician that she had, and had he not caught it, and had she not gone into the hospital for the 8 weeks to give it a chance to heal and come back down so it wouldn't burst, she would have been dead. She would have just gotten up and collapsed. And we need to take our health seriously, gang, because all the stuff and the money in the world isn't going to buy you your health back. It's not going to, and we can't help our family if we can't help ourselves. So please forgive me for getting on my soapbox regarding this, but the bottom line is you can't grow anything healthy. You can't make life come out of quality, healthy life come out of dead soil. And virtually everything, organic or otherwise, that's produced commercially and has been for the last 80 to 100 years is coming out of soil that's not topsoil anymore, that is dead, and is not going to be able to give you what your body needs. And so with that, I better get off of this long soapbox and let you and wish you blessings for the day. And whatever you do, keep chasing the dream. If you do like, please like and subscribe. And know that my heart is reaching out to try and emphasize the importance, and it really is that important. So gang, I pray you have a great day and an awesome week.